Who was Socrates? In the ancient city of Athens, around the 5th century BCE, lived a man who, without ever writing a word, became one of the most influential figures in Western philosophy. Socrates' life was an embodiment of inquiry and critical thinking. Known for his relentless questioning, he inspired those around him to explore their beliefs and assumptions. Though sentenced to death, his ideas survived through his followers, particularly Plato, who documented his dialogues and thoughts. This story begins in the streets of Athens, where Socrates roamed, asking questions that would reshape human thought. 2. Early life and the shaping of a philosopher. Socrates was born in 470 BCE in Athens, a city known for its vibrant intellectual and political life. His father, Sophroniskis, was a stonemason, and his mother, Phaenarete, was a midwife. Despite his modest upbringing, Athens offered Socrates a wealth of opportunities to explore the world of ideas. Little is known about his early education, but it's likely that he was influenced by the sophists, itinerant teachers who trained young men in rhetoric and argumentation. However, Socrates quickly distinguished himself from the sophists in his pursuit of truth, not persuasion for the sake of power. As he grew older, Socrates served in the military and fought in the Peloponnesian War. His bravery and endurance in battle became legendary, further proving that he was not only a thinker but also a man of physical and moral courage. 3. The philosophical mission, the Socratic method. By the time Socrates reached adulthood, Athens was at the height of its cultural and political power. The city was alive with debates on democracy, ethics, and the nature of knowledge. In this environment, Socrates began to forge his own path, often standing out as a sharp critic of the common wisdom. Socrates saw his life's mission as one of philosophical inquiry. He famously declared that the unexamined life is not worth living. Rather than giving long lectures or writing treatises, Socrates would engage in public debates with the citizens of Athens, challenging them to define abstract concepts like justice, virtue, and knowledge. His method, known today as the Socratic method, involved asking probing questions to expose contradictions in his opponent's thinking. His questioning was not aimed at winning arguments but at helping others, and himself, achieve a deeper understanding of life. He believed that by exposing ignorance, true wisdom could be found. This method earned him admiration from some and resentment from others, especially those in power who saw his questions as a threat to established norms. 4. Philosophy as a public duty. Socrates and the city of Athens. Socrates did not limit his philosophical discussions to the elite. He sought out conversations with all sorts of people, from wealthy aristocrats to humble artisans. He believed that wisdom was not the property of any one class, but that it could be discovered in anyone willing to think deeply about life. Athens, a democracy in name, was rife with political factions and social unrest during Socrates' lifetime. The defeat of Athens in the Peloponnesian War had left the city vulnerable, both politically and culturally. Socrates became a controversial figure, as his public questioning of traditional values often made him appear critical of the democratic government, though Socrates did not directly involve himself in politics. Many of his students and followers did. Some of them, including the infamous Alcibiades and Critias, were seen as traitors to the Athenian cause. This association with controversial figures further damaged Socrates' reputation, leading to his eventual downfall. The trial of Socrates, a clash of philosophy and power. In 399 BCE, at the age of 70, Socrates was brought to trial on charges of corrupting the youth of Athens and impiety, namely, disrespecting the traditional gods of the city. The trial was a political affair, steeped in the tensions of the time. Athens was recovering from a devastating war and dealing with internal strife, and many saw Socrates as a symbol of the challenges to Athenian democracy. Socrates' defense, as recorded by Plato in the Apology, is a masterclass in rhetoric and philosophy. Rather than pleading for his life, Socrates stood by his mission, claiming that he was doing the city a service by encouraging its citizens to think critically. He compared himself to a gadfly, constantly stinging the lazy horse of the Athenian state to keep it awake and active. Despite his eloquent defense, the jury found him guilty. Socrates was offered the opportunity to propose an alternative punishment, but instead of begging for mercy, he suggested that he should be rewarded with free meals for life, an honor typically reserved for Olympic victors. His defiance angered the jury, and they sentenced him to death by drinking hemlock. 6. The final days, the death of Socrates. Socrates spent his final days in prison, surrounded by his friends and students. According to Plato's Phaedo, Socrates remained calm and composed as he awaited his execution. He engaged in philosophical discussions about the nature of the soul and the afterlife, showing that even in the face of death, his commitment to seeking truth remained unwavering. On the day of his execution, Socrates took the cup of hemlock without hesitation. Surrounded by his weeping followers, he continued to speak philosophically until the poison took effect. His final words, directed to his friend Crito, were enigmatic. Crito, we owe a cock to Asclepius. Do not forget to pay the debt. This was a traditional offering made to the god of healing, suggesting that Soc. Conclusion: the philosopher as martyr. Socrates' life was a paradox in many ways. He never wrote anything down, yet he became one of the most influential thinkers in history. He questioned everything, yet remained steadfast in his commitment to certain moral truths. He was condemned by his fellow citizens, yet his ideas have endured for over 2 millennia. The story of Socrates is not just a tale of one man's quest for wisdom, it is a reflection of the human condition. We are all, in some way, seekers of truth, grappling with the complexities of life, morality, and knowledge. Through Socrates, we learn that the pursuit of wisdom is not always easy, but it is essential for living a meaningful life. As Plato wrote in the Apology, the difficulty, my friends, is not in avoiding death, but in avoiding unrighteousness, for that runs faster than death. Socrates' life and death remind us that, above all, we must strive to live justly and wisely. This is an overview of a full 5,000-word story you could tell about Socrates. Each section can be expanded to delve into more detail, incorporating anecdotes from his life, his philosophical dialogues, and the context of Athens during his time. Let me know if you would like to focus on any particular aspect of his life or philosophy.